Ready? All right, if everybody would stand for invocation by Pastor Matt Padeau and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Good morning. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you that you say in the book Psalms chapter 100, I will enter your gates with thanksgiving in my heart, and I'll enter your courts with praise. And many times when we're coming into business meetings or work meetings or a meeting like this, we're thinking of all the gaps or the problems we've got to find solutions to. But we want to start just with thanking you for keeping us safe in Martin County and blessing us and keeping our economy strong and stable. Thank you for these leaders, Lord, who are serving and sacrificing every day so that we can have a healthy community. We thank you, God, for all the things you have done before you ask you for things that you're going to do. Secondly, as we enter your courts with praise, it reminds us that you're a great God. When we are praising you, it makes us focus not on our limitations, but on your unlimited nature. When we praise you, we're not looking at our weakness, we're looking at your strength. When we praise you, we're not just looking at how we feel out of control or powerless in some situations, but we look that you have all power and you are always in control. You're a great God. And we just invite you into this meeting, into our community. Again, I want to thank you, and I pray a blessing, a protection, and encouragement over these leaders. Lord, we appreciate the work and the preparation these leaders do. Bless them, Lord, and help us to find great solutions today. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.
Okay, we have presets today. 9:05 is public comment. 1:30 is award of contract for RFP 2020-3179, collection of solid waste and recyclable materials. 2:30, we're going to learn about coyotes in Florida, presented by Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. 2:45 is health and dental insurance update. 5:05 is first fiscal year 2020-2021 budget hearing, and then 5:05 public comment. We have one agenda pull, consent 8, Cove Salerno Partners LLC, request for partial release of unity of title, pulled by Commissioner Hetherington. And with that,
Mr. Chairman, move approval of the agenda with the consent pull of item 8.
Second.
okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Hetherington. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to start the meeting with our presentation of proclamations previously approved. Our first is Hunger Action Month.
Good morning, Commissioners. Hunger and poverty remain issues of serious concern in the United States, the state of Florida, and in Martin County, with over 22,000 children and adults in our county now categorized as food insecure. Martin County is committed to taking steps to raise awareness about the need to combat hunger and to provide additional resources that Martin County citizens need. And here to accept from the Treasure Coast Food Bank, we have Ruby Aguirre and Joyce Smith.
Hello, I'm Ruby Aguirre with Treasure Coast Food Bank's Whole Child Connection program. On behalf of the CEO, staff, and board of directors of the Treasure Coast Food Bank, we'd like to thank the commissioners for this proclamation naming September as Hunger Action Month. Treasure Coast Food Bank is the largest hunger relief organization here on the Treasure Coast and Okeechobee, providing food and other essentials. The impact of COVID-19 has shown how easily people can find themselves in need of emergency food, and amid the pandemic, Treasure Coast Food Bank has seen the need increase up to 200%. In the months since the start of the pandemic, over 10 million pounds of healthy, nutritious food have been distributed throughout the Treasure Coast. We cannot do this without your continued support and the support of our over 400 programs and partner agencies. Please visit our website, stophunger.org, to learn more. Thank you again.
And next, we have a proclamation declaring Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in Martin County, Florida. In the United States, one person dies by suicide every 12 minutes, and suicide is the second leading cause of death for 10 to 34-year-olds and the 10th leading cause of death overall. September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and the board urges residents to learn how they may help those in need because suicide is everyone's business. And here to accept, we have Judy Overdorf, who is representing New Horizons of the Treasure Coast. She's a board member. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Judy Oberdorf, and I sit on the board of directors at New Horizons, Treasure Coast, and Okeechobee. On behalf of New Horizons staff, the board of directors, and volunteers, I thank you for proclaiming September as Suicide Prevention Month in Martin County. For 62 years, New Horizons has provided mental health and addiction recovery services to people in need of help. Today, these services include inpatient and outpatient care to 15,000 children and adults across 4 counties, regardless of their ability to pay. Suicide is the second leading cause of death in the U.S. for young people ages 10 to 34, and yet it's 100% preventable. Your proclamation sends a resounding message to the community that people really care and help is available. In 2019, there were 35 suicides in Martin County, and in the first half of this year, there have already been 16 suicides in Martin County. Here's a little more information. Alcohol and other substances amplify the risk of suicide among fragile populations. For every 1 completed suicide, 25 more have been attempted. Suicide is the 4th leading cause of death among 35 to 54-year-olds, and white middle-aged males number almost 70% of all completed suicides in the USA. There is hope, however. New Horizons Mobile Response Team operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have mental health professionals who can talk to you, and we are the only agency on the Treasure Coast and Okeechobee that brings mental health services directly to the person in need of help. No cost, no hassle. Just call 772-468-3909. We also strive to teach the community about QPR, question, persuade, and refer. This is the CPR of suicide prevention. If we divert our eyes from our computer screens and our cell phones and look people square in the eye when we ask how they are, especially if you know they have recently experienced a loss of some kind of trauma, if they are not doing well, ask them the hard question, are you thinking of hurting yourself? Well, if the answer is yes, persuade them to get help. Then stay with them and dial 911. Chances are New Horizons will be involved. We appreciate your time today, and we thank you and hope that you will attend the annual Race for Recovery on September 26th at Indian River State College Pruitt campus. It's out of doors in the open air and good for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hold on, Harold. I got to smile to my mom. Oh, yeah, there we go. Thanks, appreciate it. All right. Thank you. going to move off to public comment. Please remember you have 3 minutes. Ms. Krista, do you?
Yes, sir. So Martin County is what we currently refer to as an election season. We do have a county commissioner that is in an active campaign for re-election. Your public comment is to address the Board of County Commissioners as a whole. We do not allow partisan politicking, which is defined as advocating the election or defeat of a particular candidate. Use of words, dates, signs, props, and/or wearing apparel or a nameplate that convey a message expressing advocacy for a person or group of persons is also not allowed. Thank you for your cooperation, and you will have 3 minutes for your comments.
Thank you. We're going to begin with Sarah Stein. Sarah Stein? No?
No.
Okay. How about Amy Pritchett?
Good morning. I had the opportunity to have input into an email that was sent to one of the commissioners and forwarded to appropriate county personnel for further input regarding the mask mandate. I would like to read one of the questions and their responses. What is the new threshold the Martin County Board of County Commissioners is looking for to rescind the mask mandate? Commissioner response: there is no ability to develop a threshold, and when the county attorney researched it, there was no other entity with one. One of the other county personnel responded, my office spent many days attempting to find a threshold, and we could not locate any jurisdiction in the United States which identified a threshold for repeal of a mandatory mask requirement. It's like putting your child in their room and telling them they can't come out until you know it's the right time. The mask mandate is and was an overreach based upon faulty information and feelings, not facts. While we were presented with the medical experts' opinions and told that all businesses are happy with the mandate, the opposition was completely ignored and in most cases dismissed. Have any of you spoken to the businesses that operate under fear of being closed? Have any of you asked the children in the schools how they feel about having to wear a sweaty mask all day? Have any of you spoken to the employees at Publix and Winn-Dixie and asked them how they really feel about wearing the mask all day long? Fear is a very powerful tool that each of you is responsible for using to control our county. Have any of you taken responsibility for your part in terrorizing a community that is trying to come back to normal? The raises you gave yourselves is not deserved, and it's outrageous that we are paying for you to victimize us. We, the people, have had enough.
Todd Mazingo, followed by Jan Mazingo.
Todd Malzengo. I think I'm here to follow up with the same request, to formally ask, what is the matrix? I was at the meeting, I think it was 2 meetings ago, where one commissioner said, hey, we need to let the public know what our data decision points are. And another one said, hey, we need a mask mandate at least until we get under this 10% positivity rate. I've made 3 formal written requests to 2 of the commissioners to ask, what is this matrix, with no response. And I'm just saying, we made the decision based on something. Something told you, you need to be responsible for putting a mandate for mask in. Therefore, there should be some level that says we no longer need that. Whatever we were at before the matrix that said we needed to put a mask mandate in. So today I'm here to just formally request some type of written thing to the community that tells us what are the numbers we're shooting for? What are we trying to get to in order for this mask? Maybe you would find the community rallying around you more if we just knew there was an end game, there was an end line, there was a point where we could get rid of the mask. But I think it's only reasonable to say, we don't know what you made the decision on. Whatever it was, tell us, so we can at least figure out from that point what it is that's going to do to remove the mask mandate. I think it's a reasonable request. I'm just asking you to tell us what is the matrix, what's the end game, what's the goal line, what's the point? Is it deaths in Martin County? Is it hospital stays? Is it positive test rate? Is it a combination of all three? But whatever the data is, let us know what it is so we can shoot to the same goal. Thank you.
Jan Manzingo, followed by Glenn Collins.
Yes, thank you. I'm here with the same request for all 5 of you to let us know what the requirement is for the mask mandate. When it was reinstated at the last meeting, we don't know the guidelines. We first heard it was like 10% when we get under 10%. So 10% was the number that we all had in our heads if there was only 10, if we were down to 10%. Then we were trying to read the commission's site and it looked like maybe it was 5%. But we have looked at 9 out of the last 13 days, and it is between like 2 and 6%. Most, half the time it's under 5% of the people being tested that even have COVID. And now we know that we're only testing those that have symptoms. We're not randomly testing everybody. We're testing the people that have symptoms. And 2 days ago, it was only 2% are testing positive. This is not a pandemic. This is no longer emergency. It's not a crisis. And what we're doing to our people, the destruction. I read so many articles. We work with people, and the suicide rates are higher than the COVID death rates. Do you hear me? The suicide rates are higher than the COVID death rates. And that's not even mentioning the attempts, which are so much greater. That just shows you the level of desperation in our own county. We're looking what's happened across the country, the desperation with the people, the rioting, all the fear, the pain that's out there. I went to Publix yesterday, and the lady, it's the first time somebody mentioned a mask. We have not worn a mask in 6 months. We don't wear masks. We're around a lot of people. I was sick for maybe a week, a little bit, had maybe a few very, very minor symptoms. My husband never sick. The few people we know that have been sick recovered very well. We're just not seeing this pandemic. We're not seeing the level of crisis we're operating at. But we need to do something to stop this. In Publix, the cashier told me, hey, you can get a mask. They're at the door. And I said, no, thank you. I don't need one. And she said, yes, it's a law. I said, no, it's not a law. It's not a law. It's a mandate. It's not a law. I said, your company, your store is requiring it. And she was a little troubled. I could tell she was a little tormented. And when it got down to it, what it was, I said, if I'm tormenting you, I can go somewhere else. I can go to another cashier, stop at another store. She just unloaded. And she said, no, this is ridiculous. I'm having to wear this thing 12 hours a day, and it's horrible, and I've had to wear it for months, and this has just got to stop. It's got to stop. And I said, ma'am, I am representing you at every county meeting, and I will continue to. I am fighting for you. This country was founded on freedom and our Constitution.
Ma'am,
we
your
need
time's
to
up.
breathe.
Your time's up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Glenn Collins.
My name is Glenn Collins. Let's talk about the CDC that you guys seem to think's all-knowing. So the latest infection fatality ratio, which is all people that are infected or said to have been infected that wind up dying, 0 to 19, this is the newest estimate that keeps going down. 0 to 19 years of age, 0.00003. 20 to 49, 0.0002, 50 to 69, 0.005, 70 plus years, 0.054. And that's all people. That's people with comorbidities and everything, okay? The CDC also says 480,000 people die each year of smoking, okay? Where's all the outrage? Are we going to ban smoking next? Suicides are way up. I've talked about that here before. Medical errors, 250,000 every year. Where's the outrage on that? All these people that come up here and beg and plead you for the mask mandate, these are the same people that would, welcome the next dictator. Seriously. I mean, look what you guys have created that you've helped do. I see people riding around bikes around town wearing masks but no helmet. I mean, what's going to save you more when you get hit by a car? A mask or a helmet? The other thing I want to say is the lady that came up here from the food bank, and I commend her, okay, but she said that because of COVID, it's not because of COVID, it's because of all of you. It's all because of all of you and the governor and everyone else that has been putting all this stuff in place, the lockdowns and everything else. That's why there's food shortages. That's why there's job loss. It's not because of this virus. And Taryn over here says, no politicking or whatever else because we have an election. There's no election. There's a write-in candidate. And the person on this board up for election, had a hand in having the write-in candidate, which disenfranchised more than half.
Sir, you keep your comments to the board as a whole.
Which disenfranchised more than half of all the voters in this county. The other thing about the CDC, they don't recommend neck gaiters. Okay? How many people are wearing neck gaiters in this room? That violates the CDC guidelines that you guys are, so gung-ho about. And the other thing, I was up here, you kept interrupting me, Taryn, last time, when I was bringing up the fact that there was a misdemeanor in place. And I kept saying, no, no, no. And you said, that's not true, that's not true. And then finally you said, it was repealed. So you're a liar too, just like Lionette up there.
Your time's up.
Yeah.
That's not a lie. Thank you.
Yeah, it was.
Cheryl Schweikert, followed by Monica Leonard. Oh, I'm sorry, Mona. Start with M.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to address the police. I want to thank the Martin County Sheriff's Department once again for not turning into mass Nazis like the board up here that we have. I'm addressing you all because you all are mass Nazis. I did come up and take pictures of people that you're pushing them masks, but you're up here not wearing masks. So what's that about? You can sit up here in your chairs, fidget with your mask, pull them off, put them on, pull them off. One lady, and I'll point out you, got really pissed because I took her picture. And she was mad because she had to put on her mask. I think you're all hypocrites. None of you should even be on this board the way you act. You sit up here and you fidget with your masks. They're all fashionable. I mean, let's make them wear them with our colors that we're wearing. It's crap. You need to pull this mask mandate now because people are not getting sick. Our numbers are lower than what you said they had to be. So if the numbers are lower than what you were hitting for, why in the hell are we still wearing masks? You're trying to turn us all into sheep. There's a lot of us out here that aren't sheep, and we won't turn into them. This whole board is a bunch of sheep.
Mona Leonard, followed by Brad Gunson.
Good morning, Commissioners. The abominable taking of our civil and constitutional rights. This is something the creators of this unique republic prepared for, and it's in times like these where we, the people, take our government back. You are choosing the path that flows with the money that you're receiving. For you personally, or through large campaign contributions, or where an entity benefits by your bought and paid for favor. It is as old as time. Mark Twain said, "It's easier to fool people than to convince people they've been fooled." And evil does triumph. Paraphrasing Edmund Burke, when good people do nothing. You can also follow this in the Bible, in Proverbs and in Mark. We still have the same number of deaths in Martin County as we had 2 months ago. What happened to flattening the curve? Many weeks you've held your constituents hostage with masks known not to protect us. using powers you think you have against our constitutional rights and liberties. Remove your emergency orders, reduce your spending. Why should you get a pay raise with the strike of a pen and increase and spend our taxes on $45 million more in waste management contracts? Because you are receiving favors from said contract. It's okay for you to believe what you believe. It's not okay for you to demand others to believe the same way. Stop the drama, cancel the emergency orders. You're keeping us masked partly to get funding for PPE. Do you see the irony in that? Do you see the irony? Stop. Quest Diagnostics is another great example. Everybody kind of puts that under the rug. All of the horrible, horrible testing they have done in this state, all of the damage they have done to your constituents, to your county. You are going to be held accountable.
Brad Gunson, followed by Mr. Tom Pine.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. I know there's a lot of passion and emotion on this subject, and I want to present you with the data and the facts and the science behind why masks don't work. And I'm going to cite, actually, the organizations that everyone cites on why we should, which first off, I'm going to start off with the WHO. This is a paper in April that was written by the WHO, and it says, organizations' evidence review shows wearing masks does not prevent infection, from the WHO. I'll read a couple snippets from it. There was no evidence that wearing masks in the community prevented people from picking up respiratory infections, including COVID-19. Professor David Hyman, the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, who chaired the WHO's Scientific and Technical Advisory Group for Infectious Hazards, said, masks could create a false sense of security that end up putting people at greater risk. People think they are protected when they're not. Another concern that people may contaminate themselves when they adjust, remove, and dispose their mask. This is called cross-contamination, and I'll talk about this in a minute. The last point in this WHO study is, William Keevil, professor of environmental health care, said, governments felt the pressure to be seen doing something, even if it's a waste of time. Directly from the WHO. Now, this is from the CDC, non-pharmaceutical measures for pandemic influenza in non-healthcare settings. This is 7 doctors and PhDs. We performed meta-analysis for hand hygiene and face mask interventions and estimated the effect that these measures had on laboratory-confirmed influenza prevention by risk ratio. So that's what they did. They were doing lab studies, which is what they should be doing. In our review, this is from the CDC in May of 2020, in the systematic review, we identified 10 RCTs that reported estimates of the effectiveness of face masks in reducing laboratory-confirmed flu virus infections in the community from literature published from 1946 to 2018. In this analysis, we found no reduction in flu transmission with the use of masks. From the CDC, which everyone likes to cite. Here is a PhD scientist in physics, and he says, the science is conclusive. Masks and respirators do not prevent the transmission of viruses, including COVID. And I could read through all of this, but this basically goes back to the important point here is no RCT study, which is a randomized control trial, which is the scientific way to determine if there is a transmission or not.
Your time's
Says
up.
there has never been one in
Time's
history.
up. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Pine, followed by Steve Bowles.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Tom Pine. At the August 11th County Commission meeting, at least 3 people came to the podium to speak during public comment and screamed at commissioners, 2 commissioners specifically, threatening them with violence. There were at least 6 Martin County deputies in the room at the time, and the county administrator said absolutely nothing. Fast forward to the August 25th County Commission meeting, and I say the name of commissioner in reference to an article in the Stewart News, and I get called out using the commissioner's name during an active campaign. The person he's running against was handpicked to run as a write-in candidate as a way to suppress the vote during the primary election. No, it's not illegal, but it does reflect on the character of the person running for election when that's what he has to do to win the election. He used this technique.
Sir, excuse me, you need to approach the board as a whole.
I'm talking to the board, ma'am. He used this technique several times to suppress the vote during the primary election, which makes less than 50% of Martin County residents able to vote for this commission's seat. This is the typical double standard in Martin County, often employed by Martin County leaders to belittle or intimidate taxpayers that they're tired of hearing speak at the commission meetings. I will not back down. I will continue to speak truth to power. Either we all get called out or we don't, nobody gets called out, but it's not going to be just me. This is at least the fourth time that I've been called out when many other people continue to carry on. Now we have 3 commissioners that voted yes for the mask mandate at the last commission meeting. And the junior commissioner on the board slanders one of the 3 commissioners. Slanders her because she doesn't think the mask mandate is appropriate. It sounds like she's still working for her old boss, picking on the one particular commissioner. Thank you for your time and have a nice day.
Steve Metwall. And then that is my last speaker form unless Sarah Stein has come back to the room, which is next.
Thank you for the opportunity. Own a home in Port Salerno. I was here for that agenda item.
Can you get closer to the mic, please?
Just close enough?
Thank you.
And I'm hearing a lot of issues with the mask. I think there's a time when somebody has just got to take the position that it's over. We as parents have sent our children to school. We've tried virtual school, and the numbers continue to drop. I'm not quite sure how you can justify wearing a mask when after 4 weeks of our children being guinea pigged to school are still healthy. The numbers are going down. You heard from the scientific community. You've heard from your people in the various neighborhoods here in Martin County. Tear down the mask. Tear down the mask. It should be over. I appreciate your concern for our welfare, but there obviously was a reaction to do this, and there was no end game. So please hear us. Look at our children, which we have in school, and look at the numbers and realize they are the litmus test. Give us our freedoms back. Thank you.
Sarah Stein. That is my last speaker form. And then we'll go to Zoom.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Stein, and this is my first meeting, so I didn't quite know what to do when it all started. But I just wanted to give a little bit of my opinion. I've watched people around the room since I came in, and it just doesn't make any sense. This one wears a mask, takes it off, takes a drink, puts the mask on. This one wears a mask, pulls it down, breathes a little bit, puts the mask on. This one's sitting here, that one's sitting there. We're all breathing the same air. None of this makes any sense. It just makes me so crazy. I'm a critical type thinker. And just thinking about each one of these things is just so insane. If any one of you would just stop and think and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Do I have anything to back me up for doing this, or am I doing it out of fear that somebody else instilled in me? Initially, I wore the mask until I saw the insanity of it. And now I don't care if the Pope himself tells me to wear a mask. I am sorry. If he can't tell me why, a reason that makes any sense, I will not be wearing it. Please, just think for yourself. Don't go with mob mentality.
Mr. Merkel, we don't have anybody on Zoom?
No raised hands on Zoom, Commissioner.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to Commissioner comments. Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, just one thing, just to set the record straight. The Martin County Commissioners, we do not establish our salaries. It's done by the state. We have no control over what our salaries are.
That's correct.
That's it.
Oh, Commissioner Campy. Nothing? And I'm good. So Commissioner Hetherington?
I've been getting a couple of questions from residents, particularly those in the nonprofit industry that have large-scale events coming up. And they're asking questions, as to what are the protocols of moving forward. I saw the air show was moving forward. I know it's a fantastic event for our community. Have we set out some of those protocols? Are we planning on, setting some guidelines so these organizations can start phasing these events back in? Because they're very important to our community, and I can't see that some of these can exist without having an event for another year.
Correct, Commissioner, and I know Commissioner Smith brought it up early on. We've asked the state whether or not the governor was going to establish some of those guidelines for us, and we've not heard anything back. So if the board, as an entity, would want to have that conversation, Ms. Woods, you obviously can do that. We've not had that conversation. If you'd like for us to bring back an agenda item at either your next meeting or the first meeting in October, we can do
So
that.
void of any direction from the state, then we're responsible for our own protocols for those events.
That would be
the
my-
only thing that I'm aware of, but is Sarah Woods, for the record, is the governor's phase 2 requirements. That's where we are currently. We're in the phase 2, so that would be what we would be following. So I'm happy to, if you want to have an agenda item, come back and we can talk about that. Other than that, that's all we're aware of.
I feel like there's a lot of uncertainty, and I'm getting a lot of questions that I can't answer. So I think that would be good to have a discussion on how, and that way these organizations can plan how they're moving forward with these events.
Yes, ma'am.
The next question regarding one of the public speakers, I do think that we have to have a discussion on what our metrics are. I mean, they're asking questions, and I've forwarded, to the county administrator and the county attorney, the questions that came directly to me, and thank you, you answered them, but there's still underlying questions and that residents are asking that I can't answer. What is our end game? I think that we need to have periodic reviews of our numbers and where we're going, because to leave the public with no answer, no guidance, we've kind of gone silent. We don't do our updates anymore. We don't do our weekly updates. So I think it's not fair to the public on both accounts, those that are anxious and fearful for their health, and those that want to know where we're going next and when the mask mandate. So I think we have to set a time certain for when we're going to present numbers and where we're going next for this. So what do we need to do to set that time certain?
Sure, Commissioner. I'm happy to, as you know, we meet regularly on Monday mornings. Your chair is a representative of the board at those meetings. We've been relying primarily on the health department. Just for general information, yesterday we had 17 positive cases. The day before was 9. The day before that was 34. The day before that was 31. The day before that was 27. And the day before that was 15. And then the day before that, we were at 9 again. So I think that as we excuse me, I'm speaking. I think that as long as we work with the health department and the state, but we can have that conversation, absolutely. I'm happy to put together an item to come back with the data so that we can have that conversation. We've been relying on our health department as well as the hospital and looking at the availability of the beds at the hospital, because for us, that's a metric, if you will, for our community. And I know the governor just recently released a comment about the availability of hospital beds to our south. As you know, we are impacted by the south, and I think the fact that they've now moved to phase 2, as well as we have, that we need, we should continue to monitor that, but I'm happy to bring that information back.
So do you need a motion to bring that information back?
No, I get direction. I'm looking at the board, that everybody seems to be willing to have that conversation, so I'll put together an agenda item.
Okay, and bring it back. And then the other thing I'm getting from residents is, it could be on either side, that they want to participate in our meetings, they won't come because either our attendees don't have masks on or they're compromised, or they won't come because they don't want to wear a mask, but they want to participate. We do have some items coming up. So it appears there's no one on Zoom today.
Commissioner, there are 2 guests on Zoom.
Our participation in Zoom has been decreasing, and some of the feedback I've gotten was either, maybe they're not techie, they can't get on Zoom. So, as long as we have some of these restrictions where people don't feel comfortable because of masks or not masks, I would be inclined to have our email public comment read again while folks don't feel comfortable having a mask.
Well, I would want a discussion on that with the board, because I've heard varying.
Do we need a
comment.
motion to bring back?
Yes.
I'll motion that we bring back public comment temporarily while the emergency order is in place to allow public participation. So email read comments.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Since that motion looks like it doesn't have a second at this time, I think there are other ways than necessarily having the emails read. We did do that, and I was in favor of it at the time. But for those people that might remember how that went, it's very difficult to set the parameters on when you start collecting those emails and end collecting those emails. And if you remember, I don't want to be quoted on the exact amount of time, but I'm sure we could figure it out. It was hours of emails being read, which also thwarts the process of people that have come. I believe that there are some other options that could be utilized for people to participate in the meetings. Zoom is universally recognized now as an option, but even with that, if I get the fact that some people are not technologically advanced to handle the Zoom calls either on their computer or their phone, we could have an opportunity with people that have the ability to call in. I'm pretty sure everyone's familiar with the telephone, and we could have Mike is sitting here monitoring a Zoom link. We could just as easily have some phone numbers that people could call in. I don't know if it'll ring off the hook or if no one will contact us, but there are ways that if people are wanting to participate yet still don't want to be here in person, that I think would be a little more reasonable than, because you can control your meeting. It would be very difficult for the chair if you received 100 emails. Are we going to read 100 emails and spend the whole entire day on one issue? Because there's a lot of people that are here to speak on other very important issues, and then those meetings lasted, way longer than normal. And I'm not opposed to any public comment. If people came to this room with a mask or without a mask and wanted to speak for 5 hours, they made the commitment to come to the meeting. If they want to participate on Zoom, if they want to phone in, if you send us an email to the commissioners, we see them. I believe all 5 of us read them. I know that I do. The staff reads them. If, we're not going to respond to every single email because there's dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of emails that come in, but we see them. And your email also becomes part of the public record. So for many people, that's what they're looking to do. So I would go to some system of a phone-in before I would go back to reading countless emails. With
Yeah,
all
and to your
respect my
point,
colleague.
Commissioner, those that are coming in on a specific item that's a public hearing, we make sure that the Growth Management Department get those so that they then can make sure that they are part of their record. So contrary to what I've heard others communicate to us, those get sent to the Growth Management Department and they are added to that record.
Do we have the ability for a phone-in comment?
Commissioners, the Zoom meetings, in fact, have a telephone number published with them. Anyone can dial that number, punch in the meeting number, and be admitted by a telephone handset. So we already have that capability in place for those that would choose to use it.
So they can phone in rather than link in on their computer?
That's correct.
And they just dial a number and press a passcode?
Correct.
Yes.
I think we're going to require some participation in some of these public hearings coming up, but there's obviously not the will of the board, so. Let's see. Those are all of my comments.
Okay. Commissioner Smith?
I'm all set, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
All right. Ms. Grisday, you have any?
No, sir, I'm good.
No, sir.
Okay. Now, moving on, would you like to do your consent poll now?
Yes.
Okay. Consent 8, Cove Salerno Partners, LLC, request partial release of unity of title.
Okay. Commissioners, I'll be abstaining from this vote. I've filed a Form 8B. FF Holdings owns 25% of Cove Salerno Partners. I'm an employee of Ferrera Construction, so therefore I will be abstaining. I filed the appropriate paperwork with the clerk, that's the 8B, and I'll be recusing myself. Thank you.
So I can, Donna, you want to pull up the item for me? Please?
Harold?
Yes, sir.
You can pull up the item.
I'll
You don't
make
want it?
No, I'll make a motion to approve, and if that's why it was pulled, so that Stacy could abstain.
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly the reason why it was pulled. Otherwise, it was on consent for approval.
All right. I think we're good. We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 4-0 with Commissioner Heatherington abstaining. Did I do that right?
Yep.
Oh, okay, good.
Perfect.
Wow. Okay, moving right along. Public hearing number 1, approve the State House Initiative Partnership Program, SHIP.
Yes, we have Don Cobb here.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Dawn Cobb from Martin County Human Services. I'm here for the approval of the SHIP 1718 annual report and 1819, 1920 interim reports. Currently, this will need to be sent to the state if you approve it. It is a state requirement. This report will come back to you because currently our funds have all been encumbered, but they haven't been expended due to COVID and other. Last year we had a lot of contractors who were being pulled for other. Building was going on and they were making their money, so our projects got slowed down. So then with the COVID-19, that even slowed some more of our projects down to be completed. The state gave us an extension on it. So once we actually completely expend the money, this report will come back to you, but it still needs to be sent to the state on a timely manner.
Okay.
And this is a public hearing.
Okay.
Second.
You need to have a public
comment. We would need to ask for.
Do we have any public that would like to comment on this item? Seeing none, we have a motion by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, public hearing number 2. Public hearing and final assessment resolution for the Golden Gate Wastewater Municipal Service Benefit Unit, Mr. Sam Anderson and Mr. Phil Keithley. Seems like we need another table.
Duly noted. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you much. Good morning, Commissioner.
Phil, hold the microphone up to you, please. You got to talk right into it.
For the record, Phil Keithley, Chief Project Manager for the Utilities and Solid Waste Department. As the board is aware, the Utilities Department has been working towards design and construction of a wastewater collection system for Golden Gate for many years. As part of that endeavor, the Florida legislature approved a $2 million grant in 2019, and $1.3 million was budgeted from state revenue sharing funds. Also in 2015, the board directed staff to acquire the services of Harbor Branch Oceanographic Institute to perform a study on the effects of septic tanks into the St. Lucie River and Indian River Lagoon, specifically in regards to nitrogen and phosphorus loadings. The final report suggests significant contributions of nitrogen and phosphorus to the St. Lucie estuary watershed, primarily from on-site sewage treatment and disposal systems or septic tanks. Groundwater nitrogen and phosphorus concentrations were significantly higher in residential communities. The proposed assessment includes 766 properties at 835 or 834.5 ERCs, not 835.5 as shown on this slide. As indicated on the slide, the total project cost is $12,947,498. There is a reduction of $2 million from a legislative appropriations grant and a state revenue sharing contribution of $1.3 million, reducing the amount of assessable cost to $647,498. Therefore, that sum is divided by 834.5 equivalent residential connections for an estimated prepayment amount of $11,561 per connection. And that equates to an annual payment of $633.48 per unit, amortized over a 20-year period at 0% interest rate plus standard fees. Subsequent to the staff level workshop held on September 3rd, 2020, a number of facts were brought to the attention of staff, which reduced the number of parcels to 764 and the number of ERCs to 832. So to avoid an increase in the maximum assessment amount previously noticed to property owners, the Utilities and Solid Waste Department will fund the assessment prepayment amounts attributable to those lost ERCs in the amount of $28,902.50. Martin County Utilities serves approximately 36,000 water customers and the average residential customer uses approximately 6,000 gallons per month. The wastewater rate per 1,000 gallons is $4.57, plus a base charge of $18.70. Therefore, the average residential wastewater customer pays approximately $46.12 per month. With the approval of the final assessment resolution today, the department anticipates commencing construction in November of 2020 and estimates a 24-month construction phase with completion in November of 2022. Lump sum payments of the assessment by property owners would be due by August 1st, 2022, and any payments not received by that date would be shown on the annual property tax bill in November 2022. Sarah, would you like to comment on the SRF loan agreement?
So one of the attachments,
In the mic, Mike.
Mr. Keithley has not done the staff recommendation yet, correct?
Say again?
Mr. Keithley has not given the staff recommendation yet for this agenda item, correct?
I've concluded my presentation and staff has made recommendation.
Well, there should be a staff recommendation, so I'll go through it. Let me get to it. So at the conclusion of the hearing, of this hearing, once we've had, the staff recommendation is that you need to adopt a final assessment resolution to create the Golden Gate Wastewater MSBU, award the contract to the lowest responsive bidder, which is Centerline, and move that the board adopt the resolution executing the state revolving loan fund agreement. That resolution attaching the state revolving fund agreement, inadvertently, staff attached a red line version of the state revolving fund agreement, and so we have the clean version. It's at the back for people to review. I'm not sure if Donna can pull it up, if somebody wants it pulled up for purposes of discussion. Excuse me?
Yeah, she just read them.
Recommended action.
She just read these.
Okay, there's the new document.
Okay, here it is. I don't know if the board wants to go through it. The only difference between, it's a standard agreement with the state Florida Department of Environmental Protection for the state revolving loan. The only difference is we remove the red lines. Just, it's a matter of housekeeping. You wouldn't sign an agreement that had strike-through and underlines. And with that, it is staff's recommendation to, again, approve the final assessment, approve each of those. I don't know if there's any public comment.
Okay, do we have any public that would like to comment on this item? Seeing none, back to the board. Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Phil, I apologize. I probably should have asked you ahead of time, and if it's not easy to pull it up, that's fine. Do you have a map that shows the parameters of the service area that we're going to install? Andy?
Yes. Yes, I might need some help to get back to slide 2 here.
Page 243, if that helps. Page 243, if that helps.
I'm going to minimize that.
It's slide number 2. There it is.
Okay, great. So just for the public's reference, so you can see actually what we're talking about, what's going to be serviced in this agreement, which is a huge accomplishment. How is the service, where is the service, or how is it coming to this project? Is it coming from US 1 down Indian to Golden Gate?
Actually, we are going to be extending a sewage force main.
You can use the mouse to show them where, Phil.
From approximately this vacant area.
Where are you, Phil? I'm losing
We
you.
will construct, this is on Fairmont Street. We will construct a vacuum sewer collection system on that site. We will then extend a force main south down to Dixie Highway.
Phil, can you use the mouse to...
But the cursor is tiny. He's using
Where is it? I don't know, he's not. He didn't have his hand on
It's
it.
just moving, you can't see it.
There, come up
Well,
with
the area that I'm describing now, we're going to be moving south along Dixie, and I don't have a map for that.
You have a mouse there.
When the mouse goes on the picture, it
It-
disappears.
Yeah, it disappeared.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, well, that didn't help the
Sorry.
Anyway, the idea, so generally speaking, what I was curious about is as we move to our next phase after this one gets going, will we be able to expand north and south relative to service?
The extension and improvements of the force main system to the south are definitely going to allow us to expand some of those projects that are along this force main extension. We did the modeling and designed the force main to accommodate those future projects that lie adjacent to the force main extension.
Okay, and going north past Yacht and Country Club?
Going north of this particular project, that would be City of Stewart's limits.
So City of Stewart has Yacht and Country Club?
No, Yacht and Country Club is south of Golden Gate.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm flipped around here. Okay. So you'll be able to access Yacht and Country Club to the south from this?
Absolutely.
Is that next?
It's not next on the list. We have a 5-year program right now. The next major project on the list is Old Palm City.
Okay.
And then from there, we would move to, somewhat in conjunction with the CRA, because they're beginning to construct water mains in the Port Salerno, New Monrovia area. We will move in behind that and construct a very large vacuum sewer system to collect all of Port Salerno and New Monrovia. Beyond that, Stewart Yacht and Country Club is probably 6 to 7 years out, so it's just outside of our 5-year planning horizon.
Okay, and just curious, there you go. Perfect, Taryn.
Push the red button.
Oh, okay.
So if Stewart Yacht and Country Club wants to accelerate their timeline, is it a capacity issue of our ability to be able to do it, meaning staff and engineering and stuff, or is it just merely we have a timeline set up and that's where they are on the timeline?
The timeline and prioritization that was set up many years ago based upon a CapTech engineering report, we're somewhat following that guideline based upon us upgrading our infrastructure to accommodate it. So it's a combination of a couple of factors, but essentially we're following that original prioritization, especially for our large vacuum sewer projects. We have a lot of other projects that are much smaller in scope where we are constructing low-pressure force mains throughout the community that already have existing water supply.
Okay.
And so that's how we're accelerating our sewer project to try to meet the 10-year requirement.
Okay, and Sam just came up to the mic. I'm only asking the conversation to keep pushing the discussion of how we expand and how we are doing the 10,000 in 10 years. And so I know, because I met with Yacht and Country Club probably 5 years ago, and they were ready to go 5 years ago. And at the time, I think there were 8 years or 9 years on the list from that CapTech study, which I think to some extent, given where we are going with sort of the new strategy, what we're trying to achieve, I don't know that sometimes that's as relevant anymore as it has to be. And so I guess, again, my question is, if Yacht and Country Club were to come to us tomorrow and say, hey, now that the infrastructure is in Golden Gate, we're adjacent to that project, can we get on a list sooner? And so my question is, what stands in the way of us doing that? Is it that we physically don't have the staffing capacity to handle another 500 homes in the mix of where we are on the timeline? Or,
No, for the record, Sam Amerson, Utilities and Solid Waste Department Director. That's a good question. What we've talked about internally, if any of these communities want to move up on the list, they petition the Utilities Department. We will provide them ballots, as we do for the water assessments. And when they have a majority of property owners who want the system, the collection system, and they want to be assessed, then we would move them up on the list.
Okay, so it's not a self-limiting item. It's
No.
not as if we are in the way of ourselves, that we just can't physically take on another 500 units if someone came to us and said, hey, while you're starting that, we want to get in the connection next mix.
Sure, it's just another project to manage concurrently with the ones that are on the 5-year program, but that's quite doable.
Okay, great. And thank you for that. So as we start moving through this, my guess is they are going to contact us. That's kind of why I'm asking the question. And I just want to make sure that if there was something else in our way of doing it, that we knew how to respond to them, because I think as we start moving through the rest of the county, the same thing is going to happen. There will be blocks adjacent to where we're doing a project like this that are going to say, well, how do we get on the next piece if you're doing it right next door?
Sure. And we've looked at that. We looked at extending Golden Gate vacuum system. The consulting engineers did that at our request to attempt to serve Young Country Club, but it was just the distance was too great for the vacuum system. So what's planned for Young Country Club East and West initially was 2 vacuum systems. We're trying to acquire some property. I believe it's on
It's on Kensington.
Yes, and we're looking at some properties there, some unopened right-of-way and a vacant lot. And so we would be able to install 1 vacuum system, one pumping station rather, instead of 2, to serve both east and west portions of the country club. But it's going to be a standalone system for Young Country Club, just as we have here for Golden Gate.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the time.
Okay. Any other questions for staff?
I'll move approval pending public comment.
We already asked for public comment. I'll ask for it again. Any public comment? No? Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Yes, ma'am.
Just for clarification, that approval includes the amended revolving loan, the final assessment resolution, the award of the bid.
Staff's recommendation.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Heatherington, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving on. Public hearing number 3, legislative public hearing to consider adoption of Comprehensive Plan Amendment CPA 1927, Port Salerno Future Land Use Map. Ms. Irene Settlemeyer.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, County Commissioners. Irene Settlemeyer, Principal Planner with the Martin County Growth Management Department. This is the 3rd and final hearing on the Port Amendment of the Future Land Use Map regarding the Port Salerno CRA. Because this is the 2nd public hearing before the board on this amendment and a detailed staff report was provided with the agenda materials, I'll try to keep this presentation brief. I will note that the dates the dates of the public hearing in this paragraph of the agenda item are incorrect. The correct agenda dates, the correct meeting dates are on the front page of the staff report. So as everyone knows, this is a location map of the Port Salerno CRA. It's east of US 1 and on the Manatee Pocket. Here's a enlarged image of the Port Salerno. You can see the Manatee Pocket and some of the wetland areas. This is on the screen now is an image of the proposed future land use map. The CRA center is the rose color, which is basically in the area that once had the mixed-use future land use overlay. The CRA neighborhood future land use is the brown color. General institutional is turquoise blue. Recreational is dark green. Yellow is industrial. Royal blue is the marine waterfront commercial future land use. The industrial and the marine waterfront commercial future land use designations are not changed by this amendment. As indicated in the agenda item summary, the future land use map that was presented at the transmittal public hearing inadvertently assigned a future land use designation to some right-of-way, and that has been corrected on the map for adoption. There is a supplemental memo accompanying this agenda item, and the supplemental memo includes the legal descriptions of the future land use designations assigned within the Port Salerno CRA. So staff recommends approval of the ordinance adopting the amendment of the future land use map, and that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, any questions for staff? Seeing none, any public would like to comment on this? Okay, we have, am I seeing what I'm seeing there? Is that Miss Nikki Von Vano? All right. Thought I was seeing a mirage there, yeah. There we go.
Good morning, everyone. Nikki Van Vano, for the record, local citizen. I'm here to speak in favor of this plan amendment and also of the next plan amendment that Irene will present, and then finally the wonderful code that Dana Little will present. There's been a great team effort to reach this goal, and this was a direction that and a priority that you made and gave to Susan, your CRA director. And it's been a great working experience with a team of county staff from the legal department, from growth management, from community development, at times from engineering as well. So I would just urge you to adopt this plan amendment and the next 3 items that have to deal with the CRAs. Thank you.
And thank you for all your work that you put into this.
Thank you.
Prior to your departure. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, and how would you know all that?
Yeah.
Well, I have some volunteer activities.
Thank you. Just curious.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Bob Raines here on behalf of Richard Schultz, who owns property on Mulford Street. We've been working very closely with your staff. As you recall, he's got the piece with the residential marina operation on it right now. So I just want to make a comment on this because of the order that we take it. We're okay with the land use that's being designated, provided that the zoning goes forward, but I just need to speak on this behalf to protect his rights as we get to that part. But at this point in time, working with your staff, we appreciate the consideration, and we're okay with this as long as the companion zoning and the change to the zoning ordinance is consistent with that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Any other?
I think there was a third person, Harold.
Okay.
Good morning again. Resident at 4112 Southeast Paul Terrace, and I'm a real favor, and I have to give my encouragement to the board of the effort that Martin County as a whole has retained this county to look like Florida, to feel like Florida, and to act like Florida for 50 years. You can fly over this county and you see green. You can fly over every other county, you see asphalt concrete. I want to thank everybody for their diligence to keep this the most beautiful county in the state of Florida. I understand with this adoption that the commissioners are going to transmit the responsibility for Port Salerno to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity. I have no relationship, no understanding on how they will manage our beautiful home in Port Salerno for me and our neighbors. I would only hope that they have the ability to manage it the way it has been done since 2000.
I think we might have some clarification here. Yeah.
Great.
Yes, Commissioners, Krista Story, Senior Assistant County Attorney. I think the gentleman maybe just misunderstanding slightly. It is true that if the board adopts this plan amendment, it is transmitted to the Department of Economic Opportunity. But the county is not giving up its authority to manage this area. It's an administrative process. That is how plan amendments are moved through the system, and it's a statutory process. So the Board of County Commissioners retains its full authority over all of its community redevelopment areas. So you don't have to worry about that.
Just for input.
I worry about some of the small things. I do, but thank you.
Okay.
Compliments to Martin County. I live in Leon County. It's one of the hardest counties to develop. I own a home down here. My parents lived here. Martin County is for the people, and they listen to the people, and it's reflective on the beauty. If you come into Martin County, the landscaping, the trees, the sidewalks, the curbing is something you all should pat yourself on the back. You've done an excellent job. I tend to be old-fashioned, and I don't think we need to fix something that doesn't require fixing. I happen to think the way it's been running in this community redevelopment since 2000 has been fantastic. Not all neighbors are like me, but all neighbors are there to help one another. We have a great economic mix in Port Salerno. We have people who will help you with your yard service. We have people who will help you with your house rebuilding. I don't want to see anything happen to our village in the standpoint of it changing. There's plenty of places for gated communities. There's plenty of places for commercial development.
Sir, your time's up, and for the record, I did stop it while Ms. Story was speaking.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment? Oh, Mr. Stolfi. And I think, yeah, okay, we're getting our forms filled out.
Either one, Ted.
Thank you. Good morning. Ted Astolfi with the Economic Council of Martin County. As you know, I've been here for all of these CRA meetings. I don't think I've missed any. Hopefully I haven't. I think this is the second to last one. Is that right, Taryn?
Yes.
So I'm excited about that. I'm really happy you're moving forward. I know there's a couple more items after this, but I wanted to get in early. And thank you for moving these CRA programs forward, including the new chapter in the comp plan, the future land use maps, and enabling these local neighborhoods to really be able to implement their visions for their communities. So thank you for your continued support on these CRA amendments. Thank you.
All right. Any other public comment? With that, Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to the gentleman that asked about the DEO piece, was it clear in terms of what we're doing and why we're?
Yeah, I think it's clear. I just...
No, it's okay. So I'll redo it one more time just so it is clear. In the process by which we adopt the things we're adopting, in this type of a hearing, the state gets a review of what we've done here locally to make sure that it's consistent with the state plans and consistent with our plan. And it's a process that's gone on since the 80s on every comprehensive plan amendment and every review. The agencies have changed and their involvement in that review, but this is the current structure that we use or the state uses that is merely a review of what we have done here today, but by no means do they have any authority over the process, the strategies, the plan itself. All they're doing is checking it for consistency, that's all.
Thank you.
And everything resides with the 5 of us and the staff here, and so that any changes that get made or get done here. Is that accurate, I think? The attorney says yes? Okay, good enough. On a motion? Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, we have 4-1 with Commissioner Hurd dissenting. Okay, public hearing number 4, legislative public hearing to consider transmittal of comprehensive plan 1928 Golden Gate Future Land Use Map. Miss Irene Settlemyer.
Good morning again, Commissioners. Irene Settlemyer, planner with the Growth Management Department. This is the first public hearing before the Board of County Commissioners regarding the amendment of the future land use map in the Golden Gate CRA. If the board approves transmittal of this amendment, it will return to the board for a third and final public hearing on October 27th. So on the screen is an image showing the location of the Golden Gate CRA. Looks familiar from the last agenda item regarding, the sanitary sewer system. South of the airport, north of the Stewart Yacht and Country Club. Here's a closer look at the Golden Gate CRA. It has 379 acres. It's the smallest CRA after Jensen Beach. The FEC Railroad forms the western border. Federal Highway is about a third of a mile to the west. And then a lot of this territory to the west of Golden Gate CRA is actually within the city of Stewart. So on the screen is the current future land use map. The red indicates medium density. On the left is the red is medium density residential future land use. The lilac color is general commercial. Blue is general institutional. Yellow is industrial. Green is recreational. The map on the right is the same future land use map with the mixed use future land use overlay displayed. The mixed-use overlay, as you can see, it covers areas with general commercial, general institutional, and industrial future land uses. So this shows on the left the current future land use map with the mixed-use future land use overlay displayed, and on the right is the proposed future land use map. The red color or rose is the CRA Center future land use, which you can see basically tracks the borders of the mixed-use future land use overlay. The exceptions to that are the industrial properties and the general institutional properties, which retain those future land use designations. A lot of new institutional future land use is assigned to county-owned property that's used primarily for stormwater management. And then the brown is CRA neighborhood. There are a couple new general institutional assignments here. And I want to point out this couple of parcels here that get industrial. Currently, you can see them here. They have general commercial, and we are assigning them to industrial. So that's a little bit of a deviation from the general rules that we followed for this process, but we have spoken at length with the individual property owners. When we reviewed this, we thought that industrial made the most sense, and we spoke with the property owners and outlined in detail pros and cons of the different options, and they agreed with us that industrial was the most appropriate for their property. That's under 3 acres. So the CRA neighborhood is assigned to the residential areas. The medium density residential and high density residential become CRA neighborhood. The maximum residential density is 8 units per acre. I'll show you, there's up in the northeast corner of Golden Gate, there's a small tract that is has a high-density residential future land use. Only this triangular part here is actually developed with high density. The rest is developed like single family. So that this verbal presentation is a brief summary of a more detailed staff report that you've received with the agenda. The staff report identifies the numerous public meetings and public hearings that have occurred regarding the update of the future land use map for the CRAs, and it also identifies the notice that has occurred regarding these public hearings. The Golden Gate Neighborhood Advisory Committee, the Board of the Community Redevelopment Agency, and the Local Planning Agency have recommended approval of this proposed amendment. Staff recommends that the board approve the transmittal of CPA 1928 to the state and regional reviewing agencies. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for staff? Seeing none, any public comment on this item? Seeing people moving around but not moving this way, I would say no. Okay.
Move approval.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Heatherington, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting. It is now 10:30, time for our closed captioning break, so we are going to take a 10-minute pause and see you in 10 minutes. Mayor Kay, you ready? All right. Okay, so we are going to move on to public hearing quasi-judicial number 1. Request for approval of master site plan for Publix at Canner and Pratt Whitney. Matt, huh?
Staley.
Staley.
I have a cousin
Okay,
named that
I'm
way.
sorry.
He doesn't say he's related. So.
I did go to Martin County High School, so, you know, yeah. And with that, this is a quasi-judicial procedure, so do we have any ex parte communication, Commissioner Smith?
I do, they're filed.
Commissioner?
I do, and they've been filed.
I do, and they've been filed. Commissioner Campy?
I do, they have been filed.
Commissioner?
I don't believe I have, but if I have, they've been filed.
Okay. If anybody's offering testimony, please stand and be sworn in.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you.
Have the return receipts been turned in?
Yeah, they were provided at the LPA.
Okay, and do we have a copy of the agenda item and your work history turned in?
Yes, it has been provided.
Okay, any interveners? None? Okay, move on.
Good morning. For the record, Matt Staley, Senior Planner with Growth Management. As you indicated, a copy of the agenda item, staff report, and a copy of my work history has been provided. This application is a request by Publix Supermarkets, Inc. for approval of a major development master site plan for the development of a 48,387 square foot grocery store, 9,600 square feet of general retail with associated infrastructure and preserve area on approximately 16.72 acres, undeveloped acres. The project is located on the southeast corner of Southwest Canner Highway and Southwest Pratt Whitney Road in Stewart. Included in this application is a request for a deferral of Certificate of Public Facilities Reservation. The site was the subject of comprehensive plan amendments that were approved by the Board of County Commissioners on May 5th, 2020. CPA 1922 changed the future land use designation from agricultural to commercial general for the approximate eastern 6 acres of the parcel. A concurrent rezoning of the entire parcel from R3A in the western portion and from A1 in the eastern portion to GC General Commercial District was also approved on May 5th, 2020. CPA 19-21 was a text amendment to the comp plan to extend the primary urban service district line approximately 599 feet east in order to cover the entire subject site. Approval of this development application was dependent upon approval of the amendment since required utilities are allowed only within the primary urban service district. This text amendment also proposed the establishment of a sub-area development restriction, which resulted in non-residential development being limited to 63,810 square feet for the subject site. The development currently proposed consists of 57,987 square feet to be developed under standards consistent with the approved comp plan amendments. Environmental staff has reviewed the proposed environmental waiver application for the alternative secondary access to the site off Canner Highway and is recommending approval pursuant to Section 4.3 of the LDR. The project proposes approximately 3.51 acres of wetland preserve and approximately 3.39 acres of upland preserve. A parking rate adjustment request and analysis has been provided by the applicant. The required number of parking spaces is 232, and the applicant is proposing 290 spaces, which is an increase of approximately 25%. The request is considered compatible with the proposed uses. Access to the site is proposed via 2 entrances on Southwest Pratt Whitney Road and a single secondary access on Southwest Canner Highway. The development is proposed to be serviced by Martin County Utilities for water and wastewater services. Approval of a final site plan within 5 years of the approval of this proposed master site plan will be required prior to the project's construction. Staff has reviewed the application and finds it complies with the LDR and the comp plan as detailed within the staff report, and staff recommends approval of this development application. The project was considered by the LPA on Thursday, September 3rd, and the LPA voted 5-0 for recommendation of approval. So with that, staff moves the board receive and file the agenda item summary and all of its attachments, including the staff report for the record as Exhibit 1, and move that the board approve the master site plan, including the requested parking rate adjustment and environmental waiver. And that concludes my presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for staff? Seeing none, applicant, Mr. Raines.
Good morning. For the record, Bob Raines with the Gunster Law Firm here this morning on behalf of the applicant. I would, again, just like to reiterate for the record, I think Mr. Staley mentioned it, we did have our notices for the return receipts were turned in at the LPA for the dual notices. So I would just, again, emphasize that for the record. We have received and reviewed the staff report, and we're pleased to state that we do agree with staff's comments, conclusions, and recommendations in that staff report. Again, this is not a PUD. We're coming through on a straight zoning project. And at this point in time, what I'd like to do is have Josh Long come up and make a short presentation just to walk you through the project, to show again how we do meet all the rules and requirements here. And again, to also emphasize, in addition to the staff recommendation, we also had the unanimous recommendation from the LPA. So with that, I'll turn it over to Josh.
Thank you, Bob. For the record, Josh Lawn, AICP certified planner for the Gunster Law Firm. Matt did a really good job in giving the project history and the background on how we got here. So Matt, if you could just go ahead and move forward to my slide 6. Go ahead and start there and save some time. Perfect. Okay. Publix started this application, as they do all projects, with great public involvement, being a good neighbor. That is a Publix corporate philosophy, and helping their neighbors, and being a good corporate citizen. So as you can see from that slide up there, it was actually 1 year ago this week that we held a open house. We sent out 3,000 invites. Which is well beyond the required notices for the land use and rezoning. We hit all the neighborhoods in our area, and we had an open house at the college. We had about 80 people show up, and the vast majority of those that showed up were in favor of this project and saw the need for it. So that is how we started this process. Next slide. So this is the master site plan. I just want to go over a couple key elements of this plan. Next. First are the access points. So in Canner, we have a right-in, right-out limited movement. Pratt Whitney, we do have 2 full access points. The eastern access point is primarily for the delivery trucks for Publix, but it is a full access point as well. Next. As you can see with the the purple box there, this is the location of the Publix, the grocery retail. Next. And then we do have the accessory retail, which is very typical of the public setup that we're all familiar with. These would be secondary type retail services for those residents in the areas, pizza parlors, beauty salons, hair cutting places, things like in that nature. Next. And also, this is a drive-through pharmacy, another very important element for this area that would definitely help those people who need pharmaceutical services and don't want to actually go into a grocery store during this especially particular situation we're in right now. So that's the location of the drive-in pharmacy. Next. So just want to hit on some of the key issues. Once again, this property is vacant, has never been developed, 16.72 acres. The land use is commercial general, zoning is general commercial, and the proposed use is consistent with the land use and the zoning. Our proposed development is for $57,987. That is below the self-imposed comp plan restriction that we self-imposed ourselves when we were in front of you back in May. Next. And so over that 57,987, it's broken down that the grocery, the Publix, is going to be 48,387 with the accessory retail of 9,600. And of that 16.72, approximately 40% of the site is wetland and upland preserves. Next. So in closing, our application is consistent with the Martin County Growth Management Plan. It's also consistent with land development regulations, and the environmental waiver we're seeking complies with both the Growth Management Plan and the land development regulations. Next. And this is just a sneak peek of some of the concepts that we're working on. This is not up for discussion or vote, but this just wanted to show you that, once again, Publix is already working on bringing a high-quality architectural project to Martin County. Of course, this will come through a separate application and meet all of your commercial design regulations. Next.
Josh, can you just stop there while you're
Yes.
on that page? Can we?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Oh, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I was going to ask, and thank you for putting that up. I assumed, but didn't know, because not every Publix has a drive-in or drive-up pharmacy. That you were going to have a covered porte-cochere or
Yes.
something like that, but
Yes.
I see in that you do, so thank you.
Yes.
Very nice. Any questions for the applicant?
That pretty much concludes our presentation. I did want to just make a couple other quick comments. One, I think Josh pointed out, we've had almost no public opposition, if any, really, to this project throughout the thing. I think that's a credit to Publix getting out in front of this and being very transparent and having open houses and getting the information out there. And I think also it reflects that people recognize that this is the right spot for this project. And I know that we've received a lot of positive comments, especially some of the folks out west that now realize that they're going to be able to get to a store without having to come all the way back into and put traffic on Cantor. So I think it's a very positive thing. I don't know if we'll have any public comment today. We didn't have any public comment at the LPA, and we had very few comments during the comp plan hearings and stuff. So I think it's a project that everybody's embracing. So with that does conclude our presentation. We would ask you to accept staff's recommendation and approve this master site plan today. We'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? No? Any public comment? Seeing none, back to the board. Commissioner?
If there was no public comment, I would move staff's recommendation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's good. Mr. Staley, can you put the site plan on the?
Can you move your light to the corner so I can see it?
Yes.
There we go. There we go.
So the entire left-hand portion of the property is all wetland and wetland buffers?
And upland preserve.
Yeah. So until May, the entire portion that's being proposed for development was zoned and land use to agriculture. 1 unit per 20 acres. And since the portion that was zoned and land use to general commercial was wetland and unbuildable, the applicant asked for and was granted a land use amendment by this majority board. This is exactly why we have the rules that we have in place, to protect our environment and to protect us from urban encroachment. Why did staff create a waiver for access on Cantor Highway when there are already 2 accesses on Pratt Whitney Road?
I believe that was for, I think the main request was for emergency access. If
There are 2 access, there are 2 big accesses on Pratt Whitney.
Maybe the applicant.
Mr. Schilling might have something to say about that.
Good morning, Commissioners. Paul Schilling, Growth Management Director. The purpose of the access, I believe, is twofold. It is to provide, as Mr. Staley said, emergency access and egress. In the future, if that intersection at 96th Street with Pratt Whitney and Cantor should be shut down, This would provide an access around that shutdown area, if you will. The other is just traffic circulation from the folks that are coming from the west to get into the site without encumbering the intersection. So it has to do as well with traffic movements.
And since we don't allow impacts to wetlands, what mitigation is being done to mitigate this enormous impact to this wetland? It's not an isolated wetland. It's a real functioning wetland.
There are mitigation requirements that are associated with this project for the impact that have been evaluated and are part of the approval. So there will be a restoration and a modification of the wetlands. The environmental consultant could speak more to that, though.
Okay.
Yeah, they were.
Tell me what and where.
They were required to mitigate 0.25 acres, and they've created, they're creating 0.43 acres.
Well, this is precise. This is a development that occurs outside of Martin County. This is a project that would receive approval outside of Martin County. It's the camel's nose under the tent. It's beginning the urbanization of agricultural Martin County, and I will not support the project.
Commissioner Smith.
Bob, I don't know who the right person is to ask, so it's just a general observation question, something?
Yes.
The parking islands, I guess, if you want to call them that?
Yes.
I don't know if Publix has adopted like a new standard for them, but I've noticed in some of their newer Publix that have been built, they're really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to compliment Publix if they have, or if that's the process or whatever they're doing on those standards, because like the one down on Military Trail in Jupiter, and I don't know how old that Publix is down there, but it's really nice. And again, I would compliment that because my old Jensen Publix, I love it, and it's great. But the difference from what has occurred from the time of those Publix to today's Publix are really something special. And so, again, it's just more of a comment and an observation, but thank you to them for doing that. And I think this will make a really great site out there, and I think the residents will be super happy to have the convenience of having it next door.
Well, thank you. I agree. I think it is the right project and will be a benefit to the community.
Okay. With that, we are done with both sides of the issue, and there's no public comment, so I believe we're looking for a motion here.
We do.
We did by... Oh, I missed it. I'm sorry. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to quasi-judicial number 2, public hearing, Metwall, okay, rezoning. Matt. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a minute. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding. Do we have any ex parte communications, Commissioner Smith?
If I do, they're filed.
Commissioner Heatherington.
If any, they've been filed.
And if I do, they've been filed. Commissioner Campy?
I don't believe I have any, but if I do, they've been filed.
And if I have any, they've been filed.
Okay. Anyone offering testimony, please stand and be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Are there any return receipts to be turned in?
They were provided at the LPA.
Okay. Have you submitted a copy of the agenda and your work history?
I have.
Okay. And are there any interveners? None? So we are going to move on, Mr. Matt.
All right. Well, good morning. For the record, Matt Staley, Senior Planner, Growth Management. As you mentioned, a copy of the agenda item, staff report, and a copy of my work history has been provided. This is a request for a zoning district change from the current M2 industrial district to the LI Limited Industrial District. The approximate .77 acre undeveloped parcel is located on the south side of Southeast Whaler Street, approximately 900 feet west of Southeast Commerce Ave in Stewart. Included in this application is a request for a certificate of public facilities exemption. The current M2 industrial district zoning is compatible with the underlying industrial future land use. Therefore, this request for a zoning district change is considered non-mandatory. There are 3 standard zoning districts that are available to implement the industrial land use policies of the Comprehensive Growth Management Plan, which are LI Limited Industrial, GI General Industrial, and HI Heavy Industrial districts. In addition to the standard zoning districts, the PUD Planned Unit Development District is also available as another option. The PUD district offers more design flexibility to the applicants for proposed projects. In exchange, the district requires additional benefits to the county and more controls by the county. The applicant is proposing to rezone the property to the LI Limited Industrial District, which permits the least intensive of industrial uses. Martin County Land Development Regulations provide the standards for amendments to the zoning atlas in Section 3.2E2 of Article 3. A full analysis of the application of these standards to this rezoning request and subject site is provided in the attached staff report. Staff recommends that the requested LI Limited Industrial District is an appropriate zoning district with respect to the application of the goals and objectives and policies of the comp plan, LDR, and county codes. The item was considered by the LPA on Thursday, September 3rd, and the LPA voted 5-0 for recommendation of approval. So with that, I move that the board receive and file the agenda item summary and all its attachments, including the staff report for the record as Exhibit 1, and move that the board approve the request to amend the Martin County zoning atlas, change the zoning district on the subject property from M2 to LI or the most appropriate zoning district, and adopt the resolution of approval. That concludes my presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for staff? Seeing none, applicant, Mr. Quazzo.
Good afternoon. My name is Don Quazzo here representing the applicant, and as the record has already been reflected, the return receipts were provided at the LPA hearing. This is an infill project. If you look from the land use and zoning maps, it's all industrial around it. The LI is a better zoning district, and that's why it's in the books now in Martin County, and it helps our applicant in his design of a tax-producing property on this piece of property, which they plan on developing on it. So with that, we are in complete agreement with the LPA recommendation and staff's recommendation, and I want to ask your consideration. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Quazzo? Any public to comment on this item? Seeing none, back to the board.
Move staff's recommendation.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Quasi judicial number 3, first public hearing to consider an ordinance creating Division 7 Golden Gate Community Redevelopment Code in Article 12 LDR and amending the zoning atlas. Miss Irene Sattlemeyer. I see Miss Corres and I see Mr. Little. So.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Oh, wait.
Oh, we have to sign it, I know. You have to do your thing.
Okay, this is a quasi-judicial public hearing. Do any of us have any ex parte communication? Commissioner Smith?
If I do, they're filed.
Commissioner,
Any of them been filed?
if I do, they've been filed. Commissioner Campy?
If I do, they've been filed.
Commissioner
If
Hurd?
I have any, they've been filed.
All right. Anyone offering testimony, please stand and be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Are there return receipts to be turned in?
Yes.
They have been?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a copy of the agenda and your work history?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are there any interveners? None that I see. Please
No.
proceed.
Susan Corres, Manager, Office of Community Development. As we continue to proceed under the recently effective Article 12, Division 1, we require only one ordinance for the adoption of the land development regulations and the amendment of the zoning atlas. So one item will review both the proposed adoption of Article 12, Division 7, Golden Gate Redevelopment Code, and the proposed amendment of the zoning atlas to assign the Golden Gate Redevelopment Zoning District. The staff report was prepared by Irene Settlemyer, Senior Planner, Growth Management Department, and the agenda packet includes a copy of my work history, Ms. Settlemyer's work history, as well as documentation of public notice. The public was notified via newspaper, ad, community signage, and 872 letters went out to those within the community redevelopment area boundary and 1,000 feet out of that boundary. Presenting this item is Mr. Dana Little, Urban Design Director of the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, and Martin County Growth Management and legal staff are here as well to offer expertise and help answer any potential questions.
Thank you, Susan. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and good morning. I've never presented to you in the morning before. Dana Little with Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. Happy to be here again. This is, as Susan stated, the first public hearing for the Golden Gate CRA Land Development Code update. And it's considering the ordinance creating Division 7, which is the Golden Gate Community Redevelopment Code, in Article 12, which is already, of course, effective, and amending the zoning atlas. Efforts to date, as you know, we've had many meetings, and at this point, actually 42 public hearings, or public meetings, 22 of which have been evening meetings, and throughout this 2-year process now, we've interviewed, I believe, 110 individuals that are residents, community members, board members, etc. Our schedule got thrown off a little bit with COVID-19, thankfully because of the way that you've established this space, this meeting forum. We were able to get back on track, and so while our official calendar ends in August, and obviously we're in September, we're about a month and a half behind schedule, but I think all things considered, we're pretty happy with that progress. To date, all of these green dates that you see, the boxes that are colored green, are adoption meetings or lower board meetings, NAC, CRA, LPA, etc. And you can see that there are only 3 boxes that are left uncolored, 2 of which have today's date on them. The following presentation will be hopefully the adoption of the Port Salerno land development regulations at the second public hearing. You'll see from the schedule, if we're able to move forward today, the transmittal hearing you heard earlier for Golden Gate for the future land use map amendment to the state. We hope to be back on October 27th to wrap up this entire 2-year effort. I will say that knowing that we are continuing to meet developing what we call sort of the glitch bill, if you will, or the cleanup. We've learned many things throughout this process. And so we will be coming back to you probably in a couple of months with a further cleanup, identifying and making recommendations about lessons that we've learned and things that we think that we've improved on throughout the process. As you know, I've presented to you a number of times. We're creating new future land use designations, namely the CRA Center and CRA Neighborhood. Fundamentally to this whole effort is the elimination of the mixed-use overlays, both in the future land use map as well as in the zoning code. They created a lot of confusion, not only for residents and investors, but for staff too. I mean, we continue to debate sometimes about what really is regulating a piece of property. And then the rezoning into a single category, in this case Golden Gate CRA, and then the creation of the regulating plan, which has all of the sub-districts where we get into the finer detail. All of this still goes back to the original vision plans and trying to implement those or finesse the tools, sharpen the tools to implement the vision plans from way back when. And in the case of Golden Gate, the Now Visioning Report, which was sort of an update to that back in 2015. As you know, we created Chapter 18 in the comprehensive plan, which is dedicated to the CRAs, and Article 12 is the new article dedicated to the series and the land development regulations. Chapter 18 was adopted in September of last year, and in the case of Golden Gate, you saw this earlier. This is the existing future land use map today. Irene Settlemyer did a great job going through this. This currently is the the mixed use overlay for the future land use map, and then what was proposed earlier and then is going to be transmitted to DEO. The companion piece to this, as you know, Article 12 is where the new land development regulations live. Article 12 as a document or a vessel itself was adopted in September of last year as well. And within Article 12, there are all of the different divisions. In the case of Golden Gate CRA, this is the existing zoning map. These are the overlay sub-districts. There are 5 existing zoning sub-district overlays. Again, throughout the process, particularly in Golden Gate, because the vision plan is so specific in Golden Gate, we learned a lot about what the intentions were for some of these districts and some of the provisions or restrictions, and as we've moved forward. So we've tried to respect those, and I think we've done a pretty good job at that. As well as recognize that, you know, Golden Gate's a different place than it was 20 years ago, like all of the CRAs. As I mentioned, there are the different divisions. There are 7 different divisions, Division 1 being the general division, which was also adopted back in September of last year. Just generally, you see, this is Golden Gate here, the last of our 7 divisions. And to date, Jensen Beach, Rio, Old Palm City, and Hobe Sound have all been adopted and I believe are effective. I believe Hobe Sound is effective at this point. Port Salerno, you will hear, hopefully in a very brief manner, immediately after this presentation. This is the regulating plan that's being proposed. One of the issues that was brought up when we were here in July for the first hearing of Port Salerno was the issue of colors, and that's actually been identified that we need to distinguish the colors a bit better, and we're working on that, and that's one of the items that we're going to bring back through the glitch bill is a refined color palette that makes it more clear what the different sub-districts are. In this case, we've got the core, which is the red, corridor, which is the sort of pink down here. You know, our initial inclination was to make all of this core, but in fact, there are uses, predominantly sort of light industrial or automotive-related uses that exist here. And, you know, the intent of this is not to push out any existing businesses. So we limited the core area to this, and then the more liberal corridor is down here facing US 1. As Irene pointed out before, all of the industrial future land uses remain, as does the industrial sub-district over here. However, one thing that I will point out, and it comes up later in the presentation, but in Golden Gate in particular, we've added some additional parameters for industrial relative to landscaping, simply because so much of Golden Gate's front door is industrial properties, and we believe it's time that we can start, you know, spiffing those up a little bit as new projects or new developments come forward. This is a bit more of a detail. The Lamar Howard Park and Community Center is here, lovely facility. You may notice between this regulating plan and the one that was, well, actually, this is the first time you've seen it. I'll mention it in Port Salerno, but we've gone through and clarified, particularly in Port Salerno, where there are existing unimproved rights-of-way that had land uses or zoning on top of them, and we've removed those. So we've tried to make it clear. We've done a lot of analyses in terms of the ownership and the location of existing public rights-of-way or public properties. As you can see here, the Public Servicing District, these green areas here remain. In the Public Service District number 1, these are primarily stormwater treatment areas that exist today. There's the street regulating plan, which we've mentioned in the past, identifies existing or potential future improvements or helps to prioritize them. In Golden Gate in particular, there's this ambitious and lovely project that's underway, which is the Camino Trail. We wanted to make sure that that was memorialized. And also, in working with the Martin MPO, there was a large complete streets effort that was underway this past year that we were fortunate enough at the Regional Planning Council to work with them on. So we've identified where some of those future complete street efforts might be considered, like for instance US 1 here, or excuse me, Dixie here. Like the other sections, the other divisions, we have some illustrative street sections. The permitted uses, you know about this, how we've collapsed them into use groups in Division 1. We've got 5 residential use groups, 1 agricultural, 17 commercial use groups, and that enables us to actually summarize the permitted uses on a single page based upon the sub-district. So for instance, if I'm in the core, I'm allowed to have accessory dwelling units. I'm not allowed to have mobile homes, nor am I allowed to have single-family houses. However, in the multifamily section and the general section, single-family dwellings are permitted as they are today. So this, as you know, summarizes the uses. And a companion table and matrix is the development standards, where we summarize some of the key development standards, setbacks, density, height, et cetera, as well as the different building types that are available throughout the district. So this is an example of that, where quickly you can see if you're in the core with the minimum lot sizes, the building height, et cetera. And the same thing with the different building types that are provided. You've seen this before, that we've got a plate or a page for each of the different building types that are available, including our boat barn, which we developed in Rio, but is important, we think, in many of these communities, because of the immediate or adjacent access to water. We've also finessed or updated the industrial building type page, and I wanted to bring this to your attention, though, because, as I said, because of the location of the industrial uses really being the front door of Golden Gate, we added some additional frontage requirements relative to the industrial buildings, whereby if the buildings are to set far back from the street, as many of them are now, that there would be some additional landscaping requirements that are identified in the LDRs. The frontage types that are required, a frontage type is required for the core, general, and corridor sub-districts, but not for industrial, multifamily, or the residential sections. So that's an overview of the code that's being proposed. There's obviously a lot of similarities. We intentionally established a methodology and an approach and a vocabulary, if you will, both graphically and in terms of narrative for all of the CRAs. Although hopefully we've been able to convey that we have gone through and really tailored each one. While they may look the same, we've gone through on a lot-by-lot basis in many cases and made sure that we're respecting existing development rights, but we're also making clear what the new rules, what the new additional regulations or allowances are. And in that, I will turn it back over to Susan Corres.
So our recommendations are: move that the board receive and file the agenda item summary and all attachments, including the staff report for the record as Exhibit 1. Move that the board consider the attached draft ordinance that A, creates Division 7 Golden Gate Community Redevelopment Code in Article 12 of the LDR. B, amends the zoning atlas to assign the Golden Gate Redevelopment Zoning District and other zoning districts for consistency with the future land use map. And C, repeals Section 3.267 Golden Gate Community Redevelopment Area LDR. Move that the board schedule the second public hearing for October 27th, 2020, prior to 5 p.m. in order to coincide with the hearing date for other related matters.
Okay. Any questions for staff?
I'll move approval, staff's recommendation.
Second for discussion.
Any public comment? Seeing none, we have a motion by Commissioner Heatherington, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting. Now we'll move on to public hearing quasi-judicial number 4, second public hearing to consider adoption of an ordinance creating Article 12, Division 6, the Port Salerno Redevelopment Code, and amends the zoning atlas. Ms. Irene is still, okay. This is quasi-judicial. Does any of us have any ex parte? Commissioner Smith?
If I do, they're filed.
Commissioner Heather?
Sending they've been filed.
If I do, they've been filed?
If I do, they've been filed. If I do, they've been filed.
All right. With that, anybody offering testimony, please stand and be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Are there any return receipts to be turned in?
Commissioner, those are done by certification of mailing, which have been given to the LPA and includes this meeting.
Okay. Does the presenter have the agenda item and their work history turned in?
Yes.
Okay, are there any interveners? Seeing none, we'll move over to Mr. Little. Move on to Mr. Little.
Good morning again, Dana Little, Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. This is our second public hearing and hopefully adoption hearing for the Port Salerno CRA Land Development Code update. This is creating Article 12, Division 6, the Port Salerno Redevelopment Code, and it also amends the zoning atlas. These slides, many of them you've just seen, so I'm going to go through this quickly in the interest of time so that we can save more time for question and answers. But we have had a number of public meetings and done many interviews throughout the process, and we're rounding the end, coming to the end of a 24-month period. And as I mentioned, here we are September 15th for the adoption hearing for Port Salerno, and assuming that this moves forward, we will be back on October 27th for the final adoption hearing for Golden Gate. As Irene Settleminer presented earlier, we are creating a new future land use, or we actually has been created with, I believe, no comments back from DEO regarding the CRA Center, CRA Neighborhood future land use designations. This process is intended to eliminate the mixed use overlays and then create the sub-districts, the rezoning, and the regulating plans. Just like Golden Gate and the others, this is really born out of the original vision plan, and it's meant to implement those original vision components. Chapter 18 and Chapter 12 you're very familiar with, Chapter 18 being the CRA chapter for the comprehensive plan. In the case of Port Salerno, I don't need to tell you, commissioners, but it's a very interesting, very diverse CRA. From Manatee Pocket stretching all the way back towards US 1, crossing Dixie, the New Monrovia area. This is the existing the previous future land use map. And you see these are what were the existing mixed use overlays. So they were quite significant and covered a lot of ground, not only along Salerno, but also Cove Road as well, which is why you see the CRA Center, as we've tried to do and be consistent throughout all of the CRAs, is that we try to follow the existing outlines of the overlay districts where it makes sense. In some cases, it doesn't make sense, and we've changed those. In this case, for instance, with the Pinewood Cemetery, we're able to correct that in not only the land use, but also the zoning as well. Article 12, as you know, is the vehicle or the chapter for the LDRs that we've created, and that was adopted in September of last year, and then the subsequent CRA areas that have been adopted since. We're talking about the zoning primarily for this, so these are the existing zoning maps. You can see many existing districts today, and the mixed use overlay, so it's kind of challenging. Port Salerno, we spent a considerable amount of time trying to understand what is currently allowed to be done today, and we actually discovered some surprises that as we presented at the NACs and the CRA and LPA board, I think some folks were surprised to understand that, for instance, over here, there's a majority of areas already allowed to have multifamily development or multifamily residences. This is, of course, also tied to Division 1, like the other CRA districts. This is Port Salerno, and similar to like I showed you a moment ago, these ones leading up to Port Salerno have already been adopted. The regulating plan for Port Salerno There's a few things I want to touch on. You'll notice in the red, which is here, again, the same comment stands and our recognition of the comments at the last meeting regarding the colors. And we're working on that. We'll bring that back to you with the glitch bill coming forward. But the red, the core area here is the area right around Manatee Pocket and to the west of Dixie. You'll see these areas are not red because they're existing waterfront and with marine service area designations, which is, adds greater parameters for the use of those lands. The vast majority of the CRA is detached 1. You'll notice the area here in Salerno Shores is multifamily. That's consistent with what's allowed today. However, the existing waterfront districts and the marine service areas are also identified and carried forward. We have a detached 3 district, which is over here, reflecting the existing estate density that's on the other side of the inlet here. And then detached 2 is up here. This is the one area where duplexes are currently not allowed. And in meeting with the community, they wanted to maintain that and not allow duplexes in this area. One of the things, I'm going to zoom into this a little bit, that I'll bring up now, this was mentioned earlier by Mr. Raines in one of the previous presentations, but you'll notice these properties here, which have a general sub-district designation. We've worked with, staff has worked with the owner of a property here who has an existing, I want to say commercial, I don't know if that's the appropriate term, but an existing dock that's for lease, and wanted to make sure that that was not prohibited going forward and that that use was protected. So we've met with, staff has met with them, and we believe that we've resolved that. Through a footnote, we had different options, but we didn't want to create a special district just for that property or for these properties. We wanted to allow it, but make sure that there were some limitations going forward that this wouldn't proliferate throughout Port Salerno. So we think we've achieved that. It's footnoted in the use table, and if you'd like, at some point I can go through what the criteria are for the marinas in the general sub-district, but they are in the LDRs and they are outlined in the staff report. Like the other CRAs, there's a street regulating plan which will help Susan and her team, along with growth management, prioritize new connections and new street improvements. The street sections, the land use categories that we've discussed, and then the land use table. And I apologize, this is actually the previous use table that I'm realizing right now. The new use table has a number 6 down at the bottom, which states that there are standards for governing the establishment and operation of marinas within the general sub-district. And so that's part of the new code. I apologize that it's not on the screen. Again, the companion development standards, like the other CRAs, which summarize setbacks, building heights, densities per sub-district, are different building types. The boat barn is one that, actually, it's interesting because there is an existing boat barn in Port Salerno, a large marine structure that's right on the main street, right on Dixie, that influenced the development of this particular building type. The frontage standards, I mentioned this a moment ago with regard to Golden Gate. The more intense sub-districts, core, general, and waterfront, are required to have some type of, be consistent with at least one of these frontage types, whereas the residential areas are not. Oh, excuse me. And then again, our overall schedule. And at this point, I would like to ask Susan if she would not mind coming back to the microphone for the recommendation. Thank you. And if there are any questions afterwards, we're happy to try to answer them.
Thanks, Dana. Staff's recommended action is move that the board adopt the ordinance creating Division 6, Port Salerno Community Redevelopment Code of Article 12 LDR, amending the zoning atlas to assign the Port Salerno Redevelopment Zoning District and other zoning districts, and repealing Section 3.262 Port Salerno Community Redevelopment Area LDR.
Okay, it appears we have some commissioners. Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, Mr. Little, go back to the quandary that we had about the residential land-used property that has a commercial dock use. And we were very concerned about how to avoid creating precedent, because we certainly don't want everybody who is in this CRA that has waterfront to put commercial dockage there. So how has that problem been solved?
I think in a couple of ways. Number one, this only pertains to the general sub-district, and there are only 4 parcels that have waterfront frontage and are in the general sub-district. But the language that's actually proposed in the code, and it states that if you are that marinas are allowed within the general sub-district, provided that they meet the standards that we've identified, and I will read those standards into the record. Marinas in the general sub-district shall be governed by these standards. 1, only waterfront lots with an upland area of 1/2 acre or more may have a marina. 2, the owner of the upland parcel must have a submerged land lease with the state of Florida or document ownership of the submerged lands. Number 3, no more than 13 slips shall be provided. Number 4, in addition to parking required from the marina, the upland parcel associated with the marina shall have an additional use permitted by Table PS4. That means that it cannot be solely a marine use, that there must be another use there. And that was actually what was allowed prior to within the mixed-use overlay district. The marine use shall be used for mooring of recreational vehicles exclusively. The following uses or activities are prohibited at marinas in the general subdistrict. Number 1, embarking or disembarking for purposes related to commercial fishing, charter fishing, transport of materials, scenic or wildlife tours, or marine construction. When I used the term commercial marina earlier, I caveated that I'm on a slippery slope there, because the intent is not that commercial uses like commercial fishing or charter boats, etc., can disembark from this dock, but that these are slips for lease for recreational uses. And finally, the sale or dispensing of fuel is not permitted, and forgive me, that's not finally it. The dry storage of vessels or trailers is not permitted. The launching facilities is not permitted. Marine travel lifts are not permitted. Marine manufacturing of boat repair is prohibited. Maintenance activities that cannot be completed from inside the vessel are prohibited. This is not becoming a working waterfront. Accessory retail and service uses, such as but not limited to the sale, lease, or rental of boats, bait and tackle shops, sale of food and drink, offloading or processing of commercial seafood products, and marine equipment sales. So staff and all of us working together and with the applicant believe that we think that we've covered this, that's going to keep that function as it is today, protect it going forward, but not allow it to expand or turn into something else.
Commissioners, Krista Story, Senior Assistant County Attorney. I just wanted for the record to clarify that what Mr. Little was reading is from section 12.6.047, and that is included in the draft ordinance that you have attached to your agenda item. So it's codified as he's provided, and then the draft ordinance does reflect that additional footnote that it was not shown on the screen, but it has been incorporated into the proposed draft ordinance. So, and again, staff has worked with Mr. Raines on behalf of his client to clarify and minimize the potential impacts of this on other properties. So.
Thank you, Krista. And just for it's pages 8 and 10 within Division 6.
Okay, I'm looking at this plan, and it looks to me like, given the criteria, that all of the general lots meet that criteria. All of the detached 2 waterfront properties meet that criteria. All of the multifamily off of Azimuth Way, and all of the, and this is the southern part of the Manatee Pocket, and all of the detached 3 meet those criteria. So what's prohibiting them from saying me too? And further, then going north of the CRA boundary in Rocky Point into the residential areas, and every lot meets those criteria.
Well, according to the permitted use table, marinas are only permitted in corridor, waterfront, and what we're recommending for the purposes of the one parcel and up by Manatee Pocket is general with those criteria that I just read.
Well,
Marinas
there are 4 parcels that are general.
That's correct.
So we're not talking about just one. At a very minimum, there are 4 parcels that we're talking about. And I'm just very concerned about precedent, because this is one of our richest water resources in Martin County. It's a protected water body, and there's a lot of waterfront there that could turn into a really nasty commercial use if we don't have very, very clear-cut regulations. And I don't think our regulations are there yet.
Well, personally, I learned about this, this existing use that's been there for, I believe, through this process is how I learned about it, but I believe it's been there, and Mr. Raines, of course, could speak to this more accurately, but I believe that it's been a use that's been there for nearly 20 years. And the concern was that we did not want to inadvertently make it prohibited or a nonconformity. I think in the research that your staff has done, I believe there was a determination that because it was in the mixed-use overlay before, it was actually permitted. I'm sorry, Irene, go ahead.
Irene Settlemeyer, that's what I wanted to confirm. The properties that are being placed in the general zoning subdistrict were in the mixed-use future land use overlay. So since about 2002, a marina would have been a permitted use. So we're just continuing that with some additional restrictions about the type of docking that can occur there.
Yeah, but if you're doing away with the mixed use, then you've done away with that regulation too. That the requirement that it be a mixed use designation.
Well, we are requiring that there be something on the property in addition to the marina. So it's not just a parking for the marina. And there was great care taken to try not to take away development rights that someone had currently.
Okay, go north of those 4 parcels into the detached 2 or whatever it's called. They have the same sorts of they meet all those requirements, except they're just a slightly different color.
But they're not permitted to have a marina per the use table. They're not permitted today.
Really? I'm next. I'm the property owner next to the northernmost one. I'm real concerned about that person saying, "What? You can have 13 slips and I can have 1?" Even though I have a submerged land lease, even though my parcel is an acre, even though you understand my predicament here. I just think that
if
there's going to be, we're establishing a precedent that is going to run away from us.
One thing that, and we've had many conversations about this internally because we wanted to make sure that we were trying to, uncover every stone or look under every stone. You'll notice that, sorry, it's kind of a small scale, but you'll notice this yellow area ends right here. That is the mixed-use overlay.
But you're doing away with that. So you can no longer hang your hat on that.
But the ability to do that dock is allowed per the mixed-use overlay, which, yes, we're doing away with. We're doing away with all of the overlays, but we're also trying to, as Irene said, be sensitive to the fact that if somebody was allowed to do something yesterday, we don't want to say that, well, automatically because of this government action, you're not allowed to do it tomorrow. The parcels that you're referring to, Commissioner, forgive me for going back and forth here, but these guys, They aren't permitted to do this type of dock today. This one is, this one is, this one is, and this one is, but none of these lots today are allowed to do that type of dock because they were purposely, and they were actually requested to be pulled out of the mixed-use overlay area.
Years ago.
Okay, so go south, and we're in Rocky Point. And in that multifamily designation, there already are residential uses in there that have commercial docks. So is that an allowable use there? Because it's existing. So is everybody in that multifamily designation allowed to put in commercial docks of 13 slips each?
No. No.
So I'm sorry, I'm bouncing back and forth again, forgive me. What the nexus, or what the connection to what's allowed today versus what's allowed tomorrow relative to this dock situation has a lot to do with, as I pointed out before, the mixed-use overlay area. The majority of this area here is not within the mixed-use overlay, so they are not permitted to have that dock situation today. They will not be permitted to have that dock situation going forward.
Well, they do.
Well, I mean, I'm not debating that there are some that exist today that maybe aren't consistent.
There's a new one.
That's the one with the townhouse development project. Those are boats for the dock is part of that townhouse development, so that it's not the same as a commercial dock where people who don't live there can park their boats.
If I may, Commissioner, I would suggest that what we've put forward, while maybe it's not perfect, I think provides more protection going forward than exists in the code today relative to those 4 lots. Because these parameters don't exist today in terms of parcel size, in terms of clarifying that there must be additional uses, prohibiting the expansion of maintenance or fuel sales or any of those things that are completely inconsistent with what I think everybody wants to see in this area. We just came across this existing situation, staff did the research, realized that they were allowed to do that, and how do we allow it going forward? Without spot zoning either. I mean, we didn't want to create a special district just for the lot, Excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dana, would you confirm for me something? The properties in Rocky Point that Commissioner Hurd was pointing to, they have a multifamily sub-district, correct?
That is correct.
And the properties where the lots where this dockage are have a general sub-district, correct?
That is correct.
And if I understood your presentation correctly, this use for residential, for dockage, for non-commercial boats is not permitted in the multifamily sub-district, but only in the general sub-district?
That is correct. It's permitted as of right in corridor. Let me back up. Marinas are permitted in corridor sub-district, the waterfront sub-district, and in the general sub-district with the criteria that I read into the record.
So the area of Rocky, that's near Rocky Point, that's actually on the, between the two forks of the pocket, that peninsula would not be able to do this unless it was one of those properties that had the commercial waterfront future land use designation, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you very much.
No further questions?
Commissioner Smith.
Commissioner Campy left the room, but I will make a motion to approve staff's recommendation with the note that under footnote that be added, and I know it was in the presentation, but that the footnote be added and understood that number 6 references the general sub-district that was not on the presentation itself. What? Number 7? I thought it was number 6.
It's footnote number 7.
Number
It's
7.
in your package.
I apologize. So footnote number 7 be added, just for clarity, in the motion that is included, and that is what pertains to all the criteria relative to the general sub-district, correct?
That is correct. And it's
And
it's in the package that you have.
And that also, just as a suggestion, that maybe we call it residential recreational marinas. Because we stumbled around a little, no, you're shaking your head. Well, in one thing, we called it commercial, then we backed away from commercial, and somebody said, well, for recreational and residential purposes. So I think we ought to call it something versus bouncing around so that it's clear in the language as to what it should be called.
Well, Commissioner Christopher, so the language in the LDR uses the terminology marina, and there's a reason for staff did debate back and forth everything that you've said, and the language that's currently contained in the section that Mr. Little read off, we believe is the most appropriate language balancing all these issues.
So you're just going to call it a marina?
We would recommend that the language that's been proposed to you is the language that the board adopt. I appreciate your comments, and believe me, we had a lot of discussion at a staff level. We're trying to make sure that we don't implicate other different types of uses.
Yeah, I appreciate
and we're
that.
crafting it, and I appreciate that.
I guess, Krista, just for argument, just to argue for a second over that logic, in the presentation, we used 3 different versions.
I understand that, and that's...
Whoops, stop, hang on.
I'm sorry.
Which suggests confusion.
Mm-hmm.
And so I appreciate what you're saying, and I'm trying, and if we don't do it, that's fine. But in the presentation, we confused.
Yes, sir.
And now you're telling me it's not confused because staff recommended in the thing, it says marina, but we didn't do that in the presentation. So
I appreciate that.
All I'm saying is that you might want to think this one through.
Yes, sir.
Because Commissioner Hurd's concerns, you can see where people's minds will start spinning somewhere in the future. And if we don't define it as something I think are a little bit more articulate, marina is a very broad term. I know we define it in now Section 7, right? In the
Yes,
general,
sir.
but only for that general code.
I appreciate that, and I think the confusion is on us at a staff level, but we believe the language is precise and carefully crafted, balancing all these, but we'll continue to look at it, and Commissioner, I don't dismiss your comments.
I got it. So I did make a motion, and I guess it does not include any extra Doug Smith curricular additions, other than adding the footnote number 7 to the chart.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Do we have any public comment on this item? Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner, your next item would be the OMB, but she's got 16 items on there, and I don't think we can get that done in 7 minutes.
Well, we got 4 minutes, actually.
Oh.
She says she can do it.
4 minutes.
She just, was it this? What was it?
Okay, that's fine. We could...
You can do it.
Prior, Ms. Manning, come on. So I just think she does have a lot of items on this item, but that's due to the fact that the federal and state grants that we're applying for and accepting, their fiscal year is similar to ours. So a lot of the grant applications that are coming forward are to apply. And there's over $6 million here between applying and accepting. So again, I want to pat ourselves on the back. We do an awesome job with our grants. Jennifer?
Take it away.
Hi, good morning, Commissioners. I have 6 permission to apply, 9 permission to accept. So the first permission to apply is for a risk management internship grant in the amount of $7,500 from the Spencer Educational Foundation. The second is permission to apply to the FDEP, which is the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, for the Cypress Creek floodplain grant, and it's in the amount of $500,000. It requires a $500,000 match, which is in the FY21 budget. Third is permission to apply to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection again for the Map Creek stormwater treatment area, and it's for $1.2 million. and it requires a match, a 50% match, which is also, sorry, it requires a 50% match, which is also budgeted in the stormwater program. I'm having a hard time, I have to look from the screen. Okay, the fourth is permission to apply to FDEP for EPA grant for the IRL, and it's in the amount of $248,000. It requires a match over a 3-year period, which is budgeted in the artificial reef program. The fifth item is permission to apply for the mosquito control grant, and this funding is used for purchasing chemicals, and it's from the Florida Department of Mosquito Control, the Florida Department of Agricultural and Consumer Services, and the amount is $47,310, and the required match is part of the operational costs.
Do you want her to pause? No? Okay. Keep going.
Okay.
Thank you for recognizing me over here.
Yeah. Well, I took a psst from over here to...
The sixth item is permission to apply for the FY 2021 In the River Lagoon Water Quality Improvement Grant. There's no set amount. They are applying to hopefully get a piece of the pie that's available. The septic to sewer program is $18 million, so I don't have an amount to mention. The seventh item is permission to accept the Florida Department of Transportation grant in the amount of $600,000 for the air traffic control tower improvement.
What is this?
The air traffic control, sorry, let me read.
Sam can tell you exactly what this is for.
Sam Carver, Airport Manager. So this is a project for improving the control tower. It's had some substantial leakage issues, windows, roof, walls. So,
Okay, thanks.
It requires a $120,000 match, which is in the airport funding. Eighth item is permission to accept funds from the Department of Health in the amount of $67,400. It's to help to mitigate the opioid and overdose prevention program. Ninth item, permission to accept the E911 grant to provide funding for console monitors. It's $3,695. 10th item is permission to accept the Florida Inland Navigation Derelict Vessel Grant in the amount of $30,000, and that helps to offset the costs that we incur. Permission to accept the HAVA grant, which is a Help American Vote grant for the Supervisor of Election from the Florida Division of Elections, and it's in the amount of $188,118. It requires a $37,624 match, which is budgeted in the Supervisor of Elections budget. 12th item is permission to accept a small county outreach grant program for resurfacing of the Southeast Dixie Highway. And this provides up to 75% of certain tasks. The amount is not to exceed $390,674.
I want to stop there, just because this is such an important project. I've been begging for this project for 10 years. It was originally part of the Dixie Highway improvements, and for some strange reason, this was before I became a commissioner, for some strange reason, this area from Yacht and Country Club to Indian Street was ignored. And it's a really busy urban environment. There are people crossing the street constantly with baby strollers on Dixie Highway. It's 4 lanes of traffic plus a turning lane in the center. It's just a disaster. So this project is going to remill, which it needs to do, but it's also going to, importantly, construct 5 raised median areas to give pedestrians a safety zone in order to be able to cross Dixie Highway. There's going to be some flashing pedestrian warning lights, new signage, street lights, landscaping, streetscaping. This project has been such a long time coming. I'm so thrilled to see it on here. Do you know if there are going to be crosswalks that are included in this project?
That I don't know.
Don, do you know?
I didn't see mention of that, and it's wonderful that there are 5 raised islands, but there need to be safe.
I believe there are crosswalks that identify our pedestrian paths with the offset, kind of like what they were proposing on Ocean here, where you have the island and it's kind of an offset with the Z. I believe that's in the plan as well.
Okay. Just wanted to emphasize this project because it's so important.
The next item is permission to accept the Clean Vessels Act grant, and this is to purchase the pump-out boat replacement in the amount, it covers up to 75% of the cost. It's estimated to be $152,266 for the grant and $50,755 for, from the county's solid waste program. The 14th item is permission to accept another Clean Vessel Act grant, and this is for the operations and maintenance of the pump-out boat program. This is also a 75% grant, and it will cover $80,110 with costs coming from solid waste fund reserves of $26,703. Permission to accept the Federal Aviation Administration grant. This is to reconstruct the apron and at the Customs and Border Patrol area, as well as a wildlife hazard fencing design. And it is approximately $970,768 for the wildlife hazard fencing and the reconstruction. And this covers 100% of the costs. And on this final item, I just want to mention that the contract was provided after the fact. Donna was nice enough to provide it to the board. And this is just to provide a 10% match for the Transportation Disadvantage Innovation and Service Development Program. And it's in the amount of $21,000, and it's in the MPO budget, for the MPO budget. Or I should say, the $21,000 is available in the MPO budget. And that's it. Did I make my 7 minutes?
You did.
Yep, you're
6.5?
6 minutes over, but go ahead.
6 minutes over?
Commissioner Smith.
Oh.
Yeah, Karen, at the beginning of this, didn't want to rush through it because I think the idea to recognize what our staff does to pull in the funds that they do, I think along with that, I think you have to throw out somewhat of a piece of support to both the Florida legislature, the governor, and also the agencies for having those monies available for us to go after in the first place. We are incredibly good, I think, at setting ourselves up for being competitive. And I think we do a really good job, but it also wouldn't happen if the legislature, governor, and the agencies weren't putting those funds where we need to be able to apply for them in the first place. So in the last couple of years, a lot of money has been dumped into those areas that we really excel at, and I just think a call out to everybody in that process is important. With that, I would move approval of the OMB budget.
Any other comments? Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
With that, we will break for lunch. See everybody back at 1:30.